That famous line when you're up there shooting the damn dishes with the shotgun, like dishes are done, man. Was that improv? Was that planned? How did that line come
Like
about?
that. I think that's the writer, one of the writers, brother was Kenny. So I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't found a draft, but I found one, and it just says it's an eighth of a page, and it says Kenny is on the roof shooting the dishes with his friends, and there's no dialogue there. So I don't remember. I don't know how. Could have been thrown out by the writers or the director or one of the guys playing my friends. I have no idea. But I do know we came up with a routine of like, uh, assembly line system of a guy prepping the plates, a guy handing the plate off to the guy that gives, throws it, and then uh, so we, created that interchange. And we're really we're up on the roof sitting there, and there's no mats or pads or anything down below. We fall off the roof. You fell off the roof.
Dishes are done, man. Cleans them down to the shop.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I have here today a very special guest. I grew up on this man's movies, the big city scum sucker himself, Keith Coogan. Welcome to Crime and Entertainment, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. Very good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, for people that might not know who you are, because I don't know what the age brackets are that listen to this show, it's all over from what they tell me. But I grew up on a lot of your movies, man. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Adventures in Babysitting. My first crush, much like the role in your movie, was on Elizabeth Shue. And then obviously Toy Soldiers was a great one. So a lot of films in your repertoire that kind of helped shape me as a young film watcher. So I'm glad you could stop by the show, and we're going to dig into that a little bit today. But I guess we'll start with the norm, man. How did you get into acting? We'll talk a little bit about, you got some lineage, some pretty famous lineage to go along there. But when did you decide you want to be an actor?
I'm very young, 4 or 5 years old, and from watching TV of all things, Sesame Street, Electric Company, that kind of stuff. And I uttered the phrase, "I want to be on TV." So it started a whole journey into Hollywood. And I didn't learn that my grandfather was in the business until a couple of years into it, and what that meant. And when they told stories of my grandfather and this, and he's famous, and Babe Ruth came to see him, and the crowds were so big they'd have to carry his car on their shoulders, and I'm like, you guys are full of shit. And then the internet happened, and then I saw pictures of them lifting his car above the. So I found out that he did marry Betty Grable and fight in the war and work with Chaplin, and he had an amazing life, and the labor law too, to celebrate the Coogan Act. All the kids working today get some protection on their money. So,
and that's something interesting that I found out when I was researching. When I found out you were going to come on the show. For starters, Jackie Coogan, obviously got a lot of stuff under his belt, but more famous from the Addams Family, Uncle Fester, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It depends on generations. There's generations that knew him from the kid, and other silence, when he was younger, to people that only know him as Fester.
Yeah. So, but the labor laws. Tell us a little bit about how he was able to kind of help, future stars in the business. Tell us a little bit about that. I found that interesting.
It's just the first, case where millions, and this is in money earned in the 20s into the 30s, and by the time that he hit 21, about 1938, he went for his money, and he was married to Betty Grable at the time, and my great grandmother had spent all the money.
Whoa!
great grandfather was the one who'd publicly in the press said, "Oh, he'll have $1 million, trust fund." Unfortunately, there was a terrible car wreck shortly before my grandfather's birthday. It killed everybody in the car but my grandfather. So my great grandfather died. Junior Durkin, which was one of my grandfather's co-stars, Junior played Huck Finn to my grandfather's Tom Sawyer, a writer for Jackie Coogan Productions, and the manager of the Coogan Ranch. They were driving down near the San Diego, south of San Diego, near the border. And so after he sued his mother and he lost, because in California court, a minor can't even sign a contract. That's not valid.
Right.
And the earnings are the parents. The parents discretionary. The parents can spend it if they like. So they changed the law. 48 hours after my grandfather lost his trial, they now put 15% of the money aside into a blocked trust account that only the kid can touch once they come of age.
Wow. And I imagine that probably happened a great deal, because I've read a lot of stories. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was some issues with Macaulay Culkin where that was happening to him, where some of his funds was not being handled appropriately.
Sure. One of the tricks is to incorporate the child. So a 10-year-old now is an corporation.
Okay.
And the production company, the television series, is paying the production company. And then as a loan out, the management, they are loaning out the star for use. However, they pay the star a much smaller salary than what's really coming in. And the Coogan Act only applies to that salary that the kid gets. And then also the kid will turn 18. Parents go, here's whatever's left, here's your money. But they find that there's unpaid tax bills going back 10, 15 years. The parents never paid the taxes on it.
Oh, mother.
Yeah, the parents at that point go, well, it was your money. You should have filed your taxes. I'm 6. Funny, I was audited at 7 and 8 years old. I was audited 2 years in a row.
Damn.
Terrible.
7 and 8 getting the damn knock at the door from the tax man. Jesus. Was they playing no games? So you started out what? Little, I think Burger King commercials. That's kind of where you cut your teeth at.
I did. It was McDonald's commercials, and then that kind of locked me out of any other fast food.
Okay,
and I did a series of McDonald's commercials over the years. My first at 6 and my last at 16. And then breakfast cereals, Sugar Smacks, Rice Krispies, Corn Pops, Halvesies, Wrigley Spearmint Gum, toys, Mattel, He-Man, great. About 100 national commercials.
I always get a kick out of looking at like old cereal boxes from back in my day in those commercials. There was one that I used to love. You remember Circus Fun?
Oh, I do. Yep.
Had the marshmallows in it. It's like one of those real distinctive ass boxes. If you see it, you remember exactly what it was. And I was showing my son some of them, and they had that King Vitamin. And I was like, son, you don't know nothing about that King Vitamin. I had to grow up on the street.
Today it would be King Vitamin D.
Yeah. So your first big gig, what was that? Chips?
Yeah, it was Chips. I was actually kind of an extra. There wasn't really lines for me. I was supposed to be just a kid in this big family, and one of the kids brought along their friend, so I was their friend. But I lipped off on set, and I started stealing other people's lines and improvising, and the director loved it and started giving me other kids' lines. And I did another Chips episode, different character, later with Bruce Jenner. And then in the last season, where they did 2 attempts to spin off the Chips into a kids version, Brat Patrol and Return of the Brat Patrol, where I was a nerdy little glasses wearing rat Fink, I think. Yeah, he was a little rat, little narc. And those were fun. I did the last episode of Chips.
Oh, wow. Now, is that I've talked to a few people in the business, and they say that when you have lines, that is a different pay structure than if you're with no line.
Absolutely. You get bumped up, and there's a category that's in between. It's called 5 and under. So if you have 5 like clear lines, then or under, then they pay you, let's say, 300-400 a day instead of the 1,000 a day or something like that. So it can vary. An
Okay.
extra will get like 180, $200 maybe.
Okay, because I remember one of the guys, I can't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was Larry Hankin or somebody I was talking to. He was saying how originally he had no lines, and the next thing you know, he wound up having like a few lines by the end of the day, and that drastically changed his pay from what he thought he was.
And if they love it, if the producers love it, because after a quota of union background artists, extras, so people can be sitting there in their background, but they're the only one on set that can juggle or run a cappuccino machine or something. And all of a sudden they give them a couple of lines. They're not union, but the producers love them. They go, we'll pay their union dues. Taft-Hartley them, get them in the union. And so there's ways. You just got to be there. You got to be on set.
Okay. So what was kind of like
You can also be given a bump up line. Hey, hi, good evening, sir. And they're like, wow, cool. I got a line. I'm going to get more money. And you find out that they just dubbed your line over with somebody else. And then you get nothing.
Oh, wow. That sucks. What was kind of the landscape before you landed Adventures in Babysitting? Like because there was kind of that group of kids that was hitting all these movies, yourself, and I'm not sure about the time frame, but the two Coreys, and what was kind of the landscape of Hollywood like there?
Oh, all of that. It went nuts for kids early 80s, E.T. and Goonies and Gremlins and Stand By Me, and it went crazy. John Hughes movies.
Best fucking decade for TV, in my opinion, or movies, in my opinion.
Oh, and TV with Family Ties and Growing Pains and Silver Spoons and Cosby Show and Cheers, and it was a great decade for TV and film. And you remember all their names too.
Yeah,
of the characters in all the movies. And it was good. It was good writing, and there was definitely I think the formula was being established at that time.
Yeah,
and it just got lucky. I think a lot of stuff. There wasn't a straight to video. It was made and it was released, or it was buried by the studio,
right?
And then they started the direct to video thing. But you pretty much knew if you were working on something whether it was going to go to theatrical or straight to video.
Right. Now, what were like? Did you hang out with the other guys that you would sometimes be battling these spots for? Like, were you friendly with the Coreys and the other guys around there?
You do. They're your peers. You wind up working with them. You wind up auditioning opposite them. You see them at events, functions, parties, movie premieres, and so that you wind up hanging out with Ahmet Zappa and Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Chris Young, Jason Lively, Brian Krause, bunch of the kids at that time. We were all kind of going up for the same roles.
Even River Phoenix there for a little bit.
Yeah, River, and who immediately recognized as a profound talent and had a unconventional upbringing and home life, and probably I know he threw everything that he had at his work.
Yeah, I was doing a little project on the Viper Room of it's kind of history past, because it's got a lot of other stuff outside of that being the place ultimately where River did overdoses. A lot of backstories to that whole room, a lot of stories that people don't know even before and after. And I researched River a good deal, and his upbringing was quite different, to say the least, more than most people realize.
Love you, babe. Yeah, it was. And one of our first encounters was on auditions for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Right.
And it needed a kid who could play guitar and sing. And I could not play guitar, but they're like, well, we'll fake it. And somebody's going to record it, and you just go like that. And I was working a lot at the time, and work begets work. And River was new, but River, from busking for his family on this, street with his sister. He had it all, could sing and play guitar and act his ass off. But I booked it. Now, the thing was, it was shooting in Salinas, up Northern California. And my mother was pregnant, and we went to series. Then she'd give birth to my little brother up there, and she'd already reserved an alternate birthing center down here in Southern California. So we'll pass. And River got it. It was River's first kind of, huge break. I lost out on Explorers, but for a different role. And I went up for Mosquito Coast, and River was fantastic in that.
Yeah. What was how old were you, like, around that age? What was your age?
13, 14, 15, something like that. Yeah.
So
low teens.
What is when you say go to parties, like, what is the party scene like at that time for the lower teens? I mean, is there drugs or not so much? A little bit of drinking? Because I've talked with guys later on. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Lilo Brancato?
Not.
He was in the movie The Bronx Tale. His first role. He played Calogero. And that was his first role. They spotted him on a beach. Robert De Niro put him in the movie, gave him the lead role. And he was just like, he held his own in there with, Robert De Niro, Chaz Palminteri. And then he was just like, dude, the fucking floodgates of anything I wanted, whether it was girls, drugs, blow, pills. I mean,
yes,
it was at the snap of a finger. He didn't have to buy shit.
Yeah, but if you've been working for 10 years to try to get there.
Right.
And you've had family in the business.
And see, that's what I was wanting to get the difference of, because that's someone that was kind of thrust into it, where you've kind of worked your way up and you've seen different things.
Yeah, we hadn't hit the 90s yet with that you could become famous just for the sake of being famous.
Right.
That wasn't quite there, but it was the time that if you were on TV, there was some level of fame just because the shows were so watched and there was only 3 channels. And every movie, there was 2-3 movies that come out every weekend, and I'd go see double features on weekends. I'd see everything that was released. I'm sure a lot of kids did too. So much product was made for kids. Think about it. In the 80s. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Now, I'll talk about when was the first time you met Haim?
So it would probably have been, I'm hanging out with Ahmet Zappa, and he said, everyone's going to go over to the roller rink in Burbank, and Pickwick, ice rink, and play hockey or something like that. And Haim was going to be there. He was dating Ahmet's cousin, Lala, Frank Zappa's niece. So we jammed over there. I wanted to see Corey. I think before that, I had seen him at the Johnny Rockets. Now, keep in mind, this is the height of the 2 Coreys. And they would have just packs of girls chasing them everywhere they went in public. It was crazy. And I saw him at a Johnny Rockets, but he was at the end of the counter up against the wall, and I never got to talk to him. So later, I think I maybe met him at the ice rink once, and then I wound up getting a movie and working with him, and he moved in with me and lived with me for several months.
Wow. Now, which film was that y'all were in together?
Life 101.
Life 101.
Co-starring Louis Mandylor and Amy Dolenz.
Amy Dolenz. That's right. I remember her. She was in a Witchboard. I remember her. I think later on she done Baywatch, didn't she?
Did she? She was in what? Daddy's Girl. What was the one with Tony Danza where she turns 16, all the boys dated, but Tony Danza is an obsessive.
She's
dad.
out of control.
That's it. She's out of control. Yeah. She was the star of that.
She was
and she was also in Arizona. Patrick Dempsey. The nerd that becomes cool. What the hell is that called?
Can't Buy Me Love.
Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. You're good at this. You should go on Jeopardy.
But she also done like a string of like horror movies. So she was in Witchboard 2 and Ticks and Pumpkinhead 2 and a lot of
Ticks, I do remember. Yes.
Ticks
Yes.
with the first time I ever seen Carlton not being Carlton. Alfonso Ribeiro was in Ticks, playing like this bad gangster.
That brings us back to the things you see people at birthday parties.
Right.
Alyssa Milano's 16th birthday party. There's Alfonso. There's Corey Feldman. Probably Billy Jacoby, Billy Jane now. You would see there was a Soda Pop Club. And this had, I guess, 2 parts because apparently there are kids that have stories of the things you were talking about before. And then there was the other, it was just kids that go and dance and there's no alcohol. It's just a DJ. And they would take over several spots in LA, depending on, whatever was available or cheap or whatever. And it was membership. If you were famous, you just got in.
Right.
And it was sponsored by New York Seltzer, hence the soda pop part of the club. And if you were not famous, you paid a membership fee and that allowed you to get into the parties. It would be all of the, whatever the latest dance moves, breaking, break dancing was huge at the time. And everyone would just kind of show off their dances for each other. So that was, and yes, there'd be kids hanging out in the stairwells, smoking cigarettes, cloves, or menthol or whatever. But I never saw any drugs or alcohol at those things.
So, Adventures in Babysitting, like the quintessential classic kids movie that adults can sit down and enjoy with their kids. Kids can put themselves in those situations. Like you guys, how did the audition go for that? Was Brad the first part you auditioned for?
It was, although we did, when we got close, there was a couple callbacks, and then there was one point where they had me and Anthony Rapp switch. You go, Keith, you play Daryl, and Anthony, you play Brad. We did it once, and they said, okay, switch back. And they had final rounds of screen tests with a Panavision camera and a car set up, a convertible out in the alley. Convertible just makes it easier to shoot all the kids in the car. And we'd load up in the car with, one actress playing the babysitter, and then a different girl as the little sister, and then, they'd swap out the boys, and it would, that was, it's nerve-wracking. You really know you're going head to head against other people.
Oh, yeah.
But I survived. Yay.
Now, what was shooting like on that? It seemed like that would be a fun film to be a part of.
It was a huge machine, 3 months of location shooting, custom sets built for it. Hold on. I just totally, gnarled my color temperature. Hold on. Something's happening. Okay. I think I'm back now. Maybe. All right. We're cool. It had all the trucks and cranes, and it was one of the first movies to use the shot maker, which they used on Young Guns. It's a big truck with a crane on the back, and it allows you to get really cool, like chase scenes, moving shots. And they would just back that crane into the soundstage and they would back the truck into a soundstage and use the crane on it. They shot 2 months, mostly nights, in Toronto, and then 2 weeks in Chicago to really set it in Chicago, and then a week in LA for special effects, which were Intravision or VistaVision. It was front projection, and the camera is the projector. They use a 45-degree angle, like one-way mirror thingy, and you stand in front of this reflective screen, and they can put prop pieces and stuff and beams to walk on or buildings to hang off of, and they've shot plates we never set foot on that building. They shot a bunch of background plates and moving with the cars moving down below, which is really sells it. And instantly in camera, you see it, how it's going to look. And in dailies the next day, and this is film, in dailies the next day, it's done. The effects ready. There's no matte lines. There's no rotoscoping. There's no green screen. It's done. You can see it. And you can get about 2 shots a day with this process. It's really hard to light and line up and all that stuff. But it really holds up. It's a great effect.
Yeah. Now, is it true that Jennifer Love Hewitt was actually supposed to play Sarah?
I had heard that, and I think Maya Bruton and her family had decided to try LA, and they came out and were looking for an agent, and I think the agent said, read for this, and it was a last minute call to replace, and she went in, and I said, I think in 2 or 3 days had got the part and was flying off to Toronto. It was fast for Maya. Something like, you have to have her tell the story.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. I always tell people, like, my life, I could put, if I had to sum my life up, like the first part of my life, I coincide with that song, And Then He Kissed Me by the Crystals from Adventures in Babysitting. And then
Goodfellas.
From adulthood, it's from Goodfellas.
Yep.
Because somebody was sitting there one day and they was like, what's the first song or what's the first movie you think of when you hear the song? And I'm like, well, now it's Goodfellas. But if you'd asked me that, 10 years prior, however many years prior, it would have been Adventures in Babysitting. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, I can't tell you how many VCRs I wore out watching Shu dance around that damn bedroom. I mean, I had the biggest crush on her. I mean, you can't even believe. I was a huge Elizabeth Shue fan, and I would rewatch that damn movie every time it would come on until, like, even when it would come on TV, I hated the commercials. So I would try to, like, pause the recording and then remember to unpause it back after it come off. And sometimes I would forget. So I would skip like a part of it. And this was long before I figured out how you could just go and hook up 2 VCRs and dub them from the video store. The statute of limitations are off, so I can talk about it. But yeah, I mean, just such a fantastic movie, man. Was there anybody else that was kind of like, I always find it cool to hear about people that were up for certain roles that didn't get it, because once the movie's made and that's solidified in your mind, you can't really see other people in those roles once you've kind of seen the film on TV. But is there anybody else that was, of that was trying out for any of those roles?
Would you be able to picture Phoebe Cates as the babysitter, or perhaps Valerie Bertinelli?
I could picture Phoebe as the babysitter. I could.
They were at the last, like, screen test where they were all mixing and matching and stuff. Really? That was a brutal day for young actresses in Hollywood.
I bet. Now, another good one that was one of my personal favorites was Hiding Out. Now, did you shoot that in North Carolina?
Yeah, they did a week. They did pre-production in Boston and shot for a week in Boston to sell the stockbroker and the city, and there's the diner fight, and then him copping on the train.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved the production to Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmingwood, Thrillington, Hollywood by the Sea.
Yeah.
It is De Laurentiis's studio. It was one of the last released De Laurentiis films, that and Collision Course. The Jay Leno, Shadoe Stevens, I think it's an 1.5-hour chase movie. And Hiding Out, which I didn't know until John Cryer released his book, that he found the script, got the producers, the money, the thing, and basically made that movie. And he's uncredited as a producer, but he basically put it all together as a vehicle for himself, because, one of his things was he got a baby face. He looks younger.
Yeah.
And so, perfect plot. And it was directed by Bob Giraldi. and he had been famous for setting Michael Jackson's hair on fire in a Pepsi commercial. I know he didn't do it, but that's gets pinned on the director, right? John Landis. So an effect gone wrong. So what it was is that
Come out better than some of them other people over there.
our DP, and this is where it gets interesting. The director of photography had been working with Bob Giraldi, who had directed music videos, and it was Bob Giraldi's directorial debut. The director of photography, Daniel Pearl, one of his early projects was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I find out I'm working with the cameraman from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And Hiding Out is a weird, it got reviewed. Today you'll see this done a lot, but they never really pull it off. Showtime. Trying to think of a couple other examples. The comedy kind of action thriller. Mm-hmm. You can't. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop is great, but Hiding Out was really took the thriller part seriously, and then the school comedy part was regular old high school comedy. And John was so amazing on set, and such a hard worker, and just always prepared, and a great leader, and big brother. I want to say, I know he was my cousin, but definitely had a nice big brother vibe. I'm staring at a piece of art, a ducky that we got him to sign.
Now, another one that I really, really enjoyed as a kid, because I think, a lot of times when you're watching movies, you automatically picture yourself in that situation. What would you do if you were in that situation? Was Toy Soldiers. How did you go about getting the audition for that? And what was that filming experience like?
I think the director said they saw hundreds of guys, everybody in town that was somewhere between these ages, all ethnicities. Everyone would tend to read. I think they had character types, so people would, I never read for anything but Snuffy. I'm a nerd, not a tough guy. I don't work out. So the asthmatic, that's me. And then I doubled down on him being a total chicken shit, which is how I'd be. Come on, I'm not going to go rush the guy and, he's got a machine gun. Nah, I'm going to lay in the corner and wait.
Like a machine gun, you can shred these fuckers.
Shred these fuckers. I love Will is great as Joey Trotta. Now, the sequel, obviously, it'll be us, and we've got all daughters, and they're all in a reform school, and that gets taken over by Louisa.
Louise Callie's daughter.
Louisa Callie.
Yeah,
Louise Callie's daughter. She wants revenge, and so she's going to kidnap all those white bitches. Anyway,
it's made. That's a movie right there. With the shit that comes out today, that is a movie that I would see.
So we get hushed, searching, missing. Just a text, then their phone dies. We get texts, all of us. Me, you got Billy Tepper.
Yeah.
You got Jimmy Trotta. Now, Jimmy is Joey's twin brother. So Jimmy, and it's played by Will Wheaton, and he can slick back the hair. Joey Trotta hated the mafia and his father, but Jimmy is a made man. They just fucked with, and now his daughter's off. He's going to bring the whole mob to fucking deal with it.
Where's the Indiegogo for this?
They rush off to go save the daughters and immediately get captured by the terrorists. They find out their daughters escaped the initial assault on the school and are hiding and living off the woods. So the daughters get word and come back in and rescue their dads. I call it girl soldiers. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sold. You sold me. How was the shooting on that? I mean, obviously a different type of movie than Adventures in Babysitting, but how was the shooting experience on that?
I want to say different. It wasn't longer. It was probably shorter. It was probably only 2.5 months. It's a genre picture, so you're not doing a lot of takes of stuff. Everyone's really bringing their their B game, and I mean that in the best way. We knew what kind of movie we're making. This is not solving cancer. This is a fun popcorn action movie with headshots and good gore effects and RPGs, Blackhawks, and Apache. This is a boys' movie. There are, outside of a newscaster and a few moms in one, like when the government talks to all the moms and dads, and the phone sex operator voice, there are no women parts or no women lead parts of the movie. So it is unabashed in that. It's unabashed in taking a school full of kids and holding them hostage with a terrifying bad guy. Andrew Divoff is fantastic as Louis Callaghan. He's like one of the reasons to watch the movie. He's so fun. He's unpredictable. He's funny. Just great.
Yeah, I think I've seen him quoted as saying that was his favorite role he's ever done.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's funny because when you mentioned that phone sex operator's voice, I'm thinking back when he's like describing everybody in the thing, and she's like, "I love long blonde hair on a black man."
And she was in a van outside the set. So that basement set was really an above ground pump room, like for a swimming pool, like a big heating pump thing. And they just blacked out on the windows and covered stuff up and made it feel like it was underground. So just outside in a van, staying warm or cold or whatever it was. We were shooting. Is it close to fall? Maybe. Memory is. Yeah, I shot Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead during the summer, and then I shot Toy Soldier during the fall. But they came out reversed. Toy Soldiers came out first, then Don't Tell Mom. So that was played by John G. Avildsen's wife. He directed Karate Kid and Rocky. Field of Dreams, stuff like that. Yeah. So his wife played the phone sex operator. It was there. We got to meet her and everything. And then she was live, so we could improvise and stuff. She was live on the phone with us.
Wow.
That's a 10-page scene. I think 10 or 11-page scene.
Wow.
It took days to get through. It's 2 or 3 days. Lou coming in at the end as a ringer. And scaring us out, and then him and Sean having a nice scene. And
they're about to get out of it.
Shot it first. They shot that first, and they said, "Look, there's no explosions, there's no exteriors. It's a dark, thing. It's easy to set up with lights. We have a minimal crew, minimal number of lunches. We'll shoot this for 3-4 days. If something doesn't work chemistry wise between the guys or the thingy, what an inexpensive sequence to kind of tag on at the end and reshoot that later and do something about it." So I noticed it was a modest bit, and it was a good chunk of the film. It was a good 10 minutes, and it has a lot of exposition that sets up everything. So I think that was a good first sequence, and the movie just looks great. Looks like it was shot today.
Yeah. And they were about it. Wasn't you the one that gave him up, right? You got him caught. You coughed. Wasn't that you?
I did sneeze.
Or sneeze.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Damn it, Dad.
But we got to set up that's a thing. And so I had the makeup department put a little red eyeliner on to make me look asthmatic, I guess. Allergic to grasses.
Now, I heard too that Feldman in audition for Yogurt. Is that accurate?
Oh, that sounds pretty. Yeah, he could have auditioned for a number of roles.
I was about to say I could have seen him playing more of the guy that played soccer. I can't remember his name right offhand.
Sure, George Perez.
Yeah, I would have seen him more him than Yogurt.
Who got mistaken for Feldman at my wedding? So George Perez came to my wedding with Pinky.
Yeah,
I think she's in the other room, and everyone is like, "Oh, Feldman's here," and I'm like, "He is? Where?" And he said he was out of town, and they go, "No, over there," and I go, behind George Perez? No, him. That's and I go, that's George. He's from Toy Soldiers. Oh, okay. But they wouldn't believe. So they even go to him. They go, "Oh, yeah, really? You're going to continue to pull off? It's not you." He goes, "No, man. It's not." I guess when he smiles or something, his cheeks and there's a resemblance. So it's interesting you say that.
There definitely is a resemblance, because that's why immediately when I started saying, okay, well, who could film and play? Because I didn't picture him as Yogurt, and I'm like, well, you could definitely go for that guy. But interesting. I mean, that's a fun movie. What did that do box office wise? Was that profitable?
Made its money or so. I think it cost 10 or 12. I think it made 21 million or 22 million. I don't know. It was fine. It's a TriStar picture, which is Sony.
Right.
And I think you can see it on Crackle. Go to crackle.com for free.
Now, you kind of switch roles from, Brad in the one babysitting movie to the stoner and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah.
Definitely a switch in character. How did that particular audition come about?
I got an audition for Brian, the clown dog boy.
You were the clown dog boy. Okay.
Beautifully played by Josh Charles. And my family had always said, you never want to do the same role and the same thing. You're going to get typecast. And I've done a movie, Babysitting, where I was in love with the babysitter. And I said, what's this little brother role? What's the Kenny? That's the part goes from the stoner and then the gourmet chef and gets his act together. I know that. And my agent said, you're too young, old for that. And granted, I was 19. Yeah. Maybe 20. I think it was 20. And the character was 15. So I was like, all right, fine. One Tree Hill. So I prepared anyway. So Chris Young from PCU and Max Headroom. He also produced Brave Little Toaster. Chris Young, we had bought wigs, rocker wigs for characters, cooking with Doug and Dave or something. It was two heavy metal Guns N' Roses stoners trying to cook toast or a grilled cheese or something, and costumes like a skull vest and ripped jeans. And so I grabbed those costumes, went to the casting for the part I was supposed to go up for, and I'd prepared that. But I'd also prepared for Kenny and asked the casting director, after I'd read for the first part, I said, can I come back in a few minutes and show you something? And she said, sure. And went to the car, switched out, came back in fully in character, kicked in the door. All right, who's in charge? Let's do this. Totally Kenny the whole way, and finished it. And I had a baseball cap over backwards, like a Sebastian Bach deal. And the casting director goes, okay, go ahead and take off your wig, Keith. And I took it off, and the producers and director were there. And they go, oh, it's the guy from a few minutes ago, but they didn't recognize me when I came in as Kenny. And so they liked the affectation, and I got a call in a couple of days that I got it. Then I'd figure out what the heck that I did. And there's a part in the movie where he cuts his hair. So, there's a wig. It was a handmade wig, this whole deal. Two wigs so they could have a backup one while one was getting cleaned. But towards the end of the movie, Kenny cuts his hair. We're just back to my regular hair, which was really short at the time, like a crew cut. And I couldn't get into character. I'd look in the mirror after hair and makeup, and I'd be like, man, don't see him. That wig was such a part of becoming him. I always am into costumes and the shoes and the, not as far as like underwear like De Niro, but I do love, if props or costumes gives you something, use it, man.
That famous line when you're up there shooting the damn dishes with the shotgun, like, dishes are done, man. Was that improv? Was that planned? How did that line come about?
I think that's the writer, one of the writers, brother was Kenny. So I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't found a draft because there's different drafts of the script as you go through and shooting drafts and stuff. And but I found one and it just says it's an eighth of a page and it says Kenny is on the roof shooting the dishes with his friends. And there's no dialogue there. So I don't remember. I don't know how. Could have been thrown out by the writers or the director or one of the guys playing my friends. I have no idea. But I do know we came up with a routine of like, assembly line system of a guy prepping the plates, a guy handing the plate off to the guy that gives, throws it. And then, so we, created that interchange. And we're up on the roof sitting there and there's no mats or pads or anything down below. We fall off the roof. You fell off the roof. And I shot no dishes. I saw no dishes. Those were all insert sometime. I don't know when they shot them. And was very pleased that it wound up in the trailer. It wound up pinning the whole end of the theatrical trailer, which they played to death when the movie came out. Warner Brothers put a healthy promotion on the release. It was a summer release. And the video promotion, they put $1 million into huge cardboard cutouts with babysitter legs sticking out. Mm-hmm. And so they supported the movie, and that didn't quite do as much as Adventures in Babysitting, but it probably didn't have quite the cost either.
Yeah.
So another success, and they also just played it to death. And I appreciate that some reviewer said, "Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter never had the opportunity to slip into nostalgia because it just plays every summer on HBO."
Right. Yeah.
Which, thank you HBO, thank you Warner Brothers, thank you MTV Pictures.
Now, and then that's something I want to get into. So the residuals, I guess streaming services and stuff like that are huge for you guys for these residuals. Because before that, I mean, obviously when it come on TV and stuff like that, you would get your residuals. But how does it work with like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus? What are those types of situations? Does one pay more than the other?
Yes. It is based on number of subscribers on the service overall. So not how many people watch the show or anything like that. It is, were they holding a license to show the show?
Right.
And how many subscribers? And so it's tiered. There's a top tier where they pay 100%. It's equal to cable residuals. Then there's an 80% tier, 60%, 40%, etc. And it bottoms out at like 20%.
That's
Peacock, I'm looking at you. No, I'm kidding. What's funny is Disney Plus overtook Netflix recently. And
numbers?
And everything's delayed by a quarter, so you'll see 90 days after something airs is when you'll see that kind of settle up. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see as they shifted. This was just recent news that that Disney Plus surpassed Netflix.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Netflix was top tier.
Okay. Well, I know they just put out something cracking down on their password sharing. And I got a feeling that's probably costed them quite a bit of money over the last, I don't know how many years.
There's a few terrible scenarios here. One, it's just cutting off. Let's say that nobody bumps up and pays the extra subscription.
Right.
They said there was 100 million people sharing passwords. So the numbers for shows like Stranger Things or what's another big Netflix? Squid Game. Those record-setting numbers and such. Those won't be supported. It won't quite become pop culture. You'll have much less people kind of together binging. Remember, Netflix doesn't drop screeners to critics. They just drop it, and they drop the whole season at once. Mm-hmm. And so I read a thing where critics went to bed one night, and they woke up in the morning, and Squid Game had gone around the world and become a phenomenon before they'd even had a chance to review it.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's something you don't even take in consideration anymore. There's no I used to love watching the trailers and getting excited about a movie because, like you said, the Adventures of Babysitting trailer, whatever led them to put that scene of you shooting those dishes on that roof, dishes are done, man. It's still, I can still see that trailer playing in my head today, all these years later. So I think there was a certain nostalgia. It built the anticipation for you to go see the film, especially in horror films. And I loved horror films, which, in that movie, you had Danielle Harris, who's, become out of a scream queen. When people start talking about her movies and I say, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, they almost forget she was in that because she's so synonymous with, the Halloween franchise and other films. I'm like, yeah, she was in there. She was definitely there. But I think she gets, I guess, forgotten about, at least in that role. When I say that, they're like, oh, she was in there. But I guess the Halloween just kind of overshadowed that. Do you keep in touch with Danielle?
We do. I was a guest on her. What is that thing with the money and give it monthly? Patreon.
Patreon.
I think she has a show that she watches movies with cast members. So we watch Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh, that's cool.
So the whole go find her show or whatever. She's got a couple of things going on too. And also we see her with Joanna Cassidy, and we will do Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead cast reunion at autograph conventions. Those are always fun.
So the autograph conventions, what do you think you're probably most sought out for? What do people remember?
Depends on the area. It depends on, I kind of go off of the IMDb will recommend your like top 4 projects. And it says it's Fox and the Hound, Adventures in Babysitting, Toy Soldiers, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. So I lean on that for photos on the table and stuff. But I think I got babysitter heavy at one point or a few shows. Don't Tell Mom and Adventures in Babysitting always are duking out neck to neck so much that I created a joint shot of just both posters on one 8x10 kind of sideways. And that was my number one selling shot. One gentleman walked to the table and looked and goes, there's no toy soldiers. No one's going to know who you are if you don't have toy soldiers up here. So, other people, it's Book of Love or Under the Boardwalk or Cheetah or something ridiculously obscure like Python or Downhill Willie.
When I was looking at Cheetah, what was her name? Lucy, what's her last name? Deakins?
Lucy Deakins from The Boy Who Could Fly. And let's see, what else did she do?
Great
She's
Outdoors.
so great. And The Great Outdoors. She's great in that.
When I seen her on the Cheetah poster, I'm like, where is this chick from? I know I kind of had that Elizabeth Shue type crush on her. She was like really sexy in some kind of movie. And then bam, it hit me with the pool cue scene.
Yeah.
Great Outdoors. And I was like, wow. So I guess this kind of was like just a little family, because you click on one movie, then you see somebody in there that somebody worked with and another. So it was, I'm guessing, like a real close-knit community between all you guys.
And you see that she worked with Chris Young on Great Outdoors. Jay Underwood from Boy Who Could Fly, I did a college date rape movie, A Reason to Believe, with him. So you do. And then I remember I was dating Katie Barberry at the time that she was doing Not Quite Human 2 with Jay Underwood and Scott Grimes' sister. It's all. I broke my nose in Scott Grimes' swimming pool, so it's a weird, they. And then I have normal friends too, like Jake Busey or Gabe Jarrett.
Yeah,
my lifelong grew up with them. Go to school, karate classes with Mitch from Real Genius and Jake.
What about Feldman? Are you still tight with Feldman?
I am. Absolutely.
So,
he's a good friend. We will always be friends forever, won't we?
Yeah. Now, I did see his movie, what was it, The Tale of Two Corys or Two Corys?
Yes. The best, juiciest Lifetime movie probably they've ever done. I was impressed. Very good looking for a Lifetime movie. Hell yeah.
And you were in there.
I was. And I had auditioned for a role. I didn't get it. And then, because I auditioned for the person who first molested Corey Haim on the set of Lucas. And they go, but we're not showing his face for legal reasons and everything. So we want to use you where we can show your face. Okay, fine. So they offered me the role of the guy that molested Corey Haim on Lost Boys. So that was, I think, typecasting, I guess, which is very weird. And, I'm sitting here acting with these two actors that look so much like Corey and Corey from that time. And I was even Dinger for a minute in Dream a Little Dream, and then found out I wasn't Dinger at the Youth and Film Awards when Feldman announced on stage, and I want to introduce my co-star. And I'm like, yeah, I've already been in the production office. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be his co-star. And he goes, Corey. And he gets up on the stage. I'm like, what the hell? Tell It to Corey's was, they took two books, and one of them was choreography. And so they bought pieces of choreography from Feldman, and that's how Feldman wound up being one of the producers on Tell It to Corey's. And then Jameson Newlander has a great cameo as the cop that pulls over Feldman and busts him.
Now, and you were also in his documentary.
Yes. It's so funny. The one thing about Corey is he's a really big Chaplin fan. And, obviously he's aware of the Coogan Act and its, protection, not just for the money, but for working hours and conditions and private schooling on set. That really means a lot to a busy kid actor. You can kind of compress 8 hours of school into 3 hours of one-on-one tutoring. Is that he's always really appreciated my grandfather and his legacy and his sacrifice. I know my grandfather never meant to. They had a screening in the 70s when Chaplin had re-upped the copyright to the kid, and I think it was about 78. And Leonard Maltin, the film reviewer, was there. I promptly fell asleep in my grandfather's lap. He said, it's funny because Jackie fell asleep in Chaplin's lap when they first premiered the movie. It still played, the movie still played. Leonard Maltin, or someone asked Jackie after the movie what he thinks about seeing the movie now after all these years. And my grandfather said, the money. I think about the money.
Yeah.
And I see that pain, I saw that it affected him every day. There probably wasn't a day that went by that I didn't see it hurt him. But Corey really, recognizes that and acknowledges that. And I hope he's, I think, Corey is in the same league as River Phoenix and Haim and phenomenal actors. Probably is a teen star that comes with a hell of a lot of baggage than being a teen character actor. Yeah. And I was pretty happy to take what I could get in terms of that. I'd get leads in other movies, but I think studios felt a lot more comfortable with me as the best friend or the guy in love with the girl or something. Right. And I have no problem stealing scenes from Sean Astin or Ted Danson, or I will steal a scene from Lloyd Bridges if that's what it takes. Yeah. You can't steal a scene if you're in every scene.
That's a great point. I like that. Now, and I think too, when Feldman's documentary come out, it shedded a little bit of light because obviously, you have these stories that's come out in the last few years with Harvey Weinstein. And obviously, lots of eyes are on, the way women were treated in the business. But I think sometimes when it was guys, it was kind of maybe not looked at quite as deep. And I know Feldman was met with a little bit of resistance, but also at the same time, he had a lot of support. I wasn't aware, at least I don't think, that you said that there was claims that Haim was molested on Lost Boys too.
Yeah, I think that's in choreography. Yeah, you got to read his biography. Choreography. He doesn't pull any punches. My jaw was on the floor, and that's why I was surprised at the Lifetime movie. They said they had to, cut back a bit, but it's still pretty nuts. And
Yeah.
I wasn't there in the two Corey's circle at the time, but it's accurate. It's absolutely picking up girls from the limo to the walk into the theater. Oh, you come here. Oh, you too. Come here. It absolutely happened.
There was a movie that I remember watching. I don't know if they were a little older at this time, but they were both in it. It was called Blown Away. And
I thought you were going to go for Club Dread, or what was that called? There was one where they were on an island and scuba diving a lot. Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
was that Club
yeah,
Dread?
Blown Away. I don't think I ever saw Blown Away.
So it was Nicole Eger was in it.
Yeah, Nicole's great. Love her.
And so like I remember I was fairly young, but like this fucking movie was like softcore porn. I mean, like they were going at it the whole damn movie. And then the whole gist is like her dad kind of beats her. So she puts a bomb on his bike. And that kind of starts the whole ordeal. Come to find out, Feldman's in it too. At the end, supposedly, Feldman's with her. And I remember, like, I grew up on License to Drive and Dream a Little Dream and those types of movies. So that was like really, really different. And plus, like I said, the sex scenes in that thing was off the fucking charts.
Did you see Poison Ivy? Did you see Far From Home?
I think it was worse than those.
And here's where I think's happening. Is a child actor is forced to, behave and be hireable. And they're repressed, especially in age. I'm 20 playing 15 at one point.
Right.
And when they hit 18, they get some sort of autonomy and some independence from their management or their parents or whatever. Or even sometimes it's the support of the parents.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, get the boob job. Yeah, sure. That they want to violently assert their adulthood with some softcore Cinemax stuff.
Yeah.
And I was guilty. I took a money job. Feldman, I blame you. He dropped out on a Friday of something. I don't think he was confirmed, but I went to dinner Friday and wound up on a set Monday for Forever, A Ghost of a Love Story with Sean Young, Sally Kirkland, Diane Ladd, Steve Railsback. It is a phenomenally bad picture, but and we finished it in like 18 days.
Wow. Yeah, I think probably there's nobody better to that point, like kind of my age that I can remember was like Miley Cyrus, because I had a daughter who grew up in like it was Hannah Montana, really tame or whatever. Then even when she got into singing, it was still, the good kind of music that the kids listen to, and then bam, next thing you know, I mean, like she sheds that fucking image like you wouldn't believe, and still doing a decent job of it today. So I think to your point, I think that's great illustration that they have to keep all this pent up, even when they're getting older and more mature. They appeal to that younger audience, so they have to still act that way. And when it's
a great way to break out of something that they've been locked into. Character type or a typecast situation, then they want to break that mold hard and go as far from their kind of kid role as possible. And that's we also at the time saw big money in movies like Basic Instinct, and we realized that there's nothing wrong with doing an R-rated movie. Look what it did for Richard Gere. Look what it did for Al Pacino. So it was understanding in the business.
Yeah.
And we saw the adult storylines and stuff on stuff we were working on when we were younger, and modesty garments and body doubles and whatnot. And it's and that's the cautionary thing. And I think this is why I was asked to be a part of the documentary, is that did you ever see Borat? No, Bruno. Did you ever see Bruno?
Yes.
There's the part where he decides to be famous, he has to adopt a child.
Mhm.
but he wants to get the right kid, so he holds auditions. And when they're really, they go to parents and they say, "Hey, listen, we're shooting a convertible, but really fast and free. We can't have any seatbelts. Are you okay with that?" And every single time the parents were like, "Oh yeah, no, he's good in cars." All right, we're gonna have live bees swarming. And are they? Is he allergic? And he's like, "No, he's good with animals." Um, and the pinnacle was, okay, one of them will be will be Jesus on a cross, and I want your kid to be a Roman guard stabbing him with the spear in the ribs. And they're like, "Sure, no problem." And that parents are easy to sell their kid out for, you know, the possible quick fame. So the key is education, knowing what's real, what's not, what to look out for, scams, warning signs, the good. Really just focus on what you do want to do and kind of start your career on the right path with the right people. If someone warns you and goes, "Hey, look out for that person," look out for them. Just think, "Hey, what can't hurt you?" There's plenty of other producers, plenty of other studios, plenty of other directors. There's only one child that you got. So once in a lifetime opportunity could cost that kid a lifetime of pain. Stick with your kid. You have a right as an adult, as a parent of a kid, to be within sight and sound of your child at all times. No, "Oh, we're going to run them over to wardrobe." Nope, I'm coming with. "Oh, we're going to stick them on it." Nope, I'm with them. I'm here. I'm on the mountain with them. Feldman wants to push it further and make it a parent's obligation to be within sight and sound of their child at all time on set. I know it's a right, and they can exercise that by signing the kid over to another guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's the director. Drew Barrymore was signed over to Spielberg, I think, at one point. And I've heard of grips being guardians all of a sudden. That, yeah, it's going to be a case by case situation, don't you think?
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Nowadays, like I said, it's a lot more. I think it's looked at a little bit more closely, especially I think with the Weinstein stuff coming to light, because that went on for so long with so many different people.
The kid's got Twitter. He'll TikTok it out.
Yeah.
You know what this producer just said to me? And what we need is people like Joanna Cassidy, who she told me a great story. She's a young starlet and making her way up Hollywood. She tends a party. And somebody come up to her and goes, "That guy over there, he's big shot. If you go sit on his lap, he'll give you a part." She goes, "Who? Where? That guy?" Okay. She goes over. She goes, "Oh, is it true? If I sit on your lap, you'll give me a part?" It's like, "Yeah." She smacks him. "How dare you do that to young girls? How dare you?" And she's still working. So yeah, don't ever feel pushed or anything to do anything that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, the landscape has definitely changed in that for the better. There's a lot of things in this world that I don't necessarily think have changed for the better, but that is one of them. I think that's getting more and more, I guess, not normal as it appears to be. It was for so long. And I think there'll always be, when it comes to people having that kind of power and stroke, I think you'll always have the guys that take advantage of it, or women that take advantage of it. But unfortunately, it's hopefully we can just limit it to a few bad apples. I would like to see it eventually get phased out, but I think evil is just kind of something that is going to always exist in this world.
Well, Hollywood passed a 3 people in the room at all times for interviews, auditions, all that stuff. Really stringent guidelines on nudity in the auditions phase, what's expected on set, all that stuff. There is an intimacy coordinator now on set. Who was it that got fired? He just put his hand on the actress's leg. It's like, "Oh, she's right in front of me." Frank Langella.
Oh, wow.
And HR called, immediately fired. You're off the movie. And so it's the protections there are there. Now, are you going to find that on lower budget films, non-union pictures? No, it's going to be Wild Wild West. So keep your guard up.
Yeah, for sure. I think Murray just got in a little trouble with that. Bill Murray just got production halted on the movie for
Did.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, Keith, man, I
Well,
can't
you
tell you how
also
much I
remember
appreciate you
all of
coming.
these. Oh, I know. I appreciate you having me. Remember, these are all workplace issues, including the Chris Rock Will Smith slap. Remember, they were employees. They were there presenting awards. They had to get COVID tested. They were on TV. They're performers in a union. The moment that assault happened, it should have been separated, removed from the area, investigated. That was a workplace assault. You know, any industry where all you get is, you can't come to our award ceremony for 10 years.
Yeah,
The Oscars, is that really punishment with the Oscars? They gave them the damn award anyway.
Yeah, I'm about to say you win it. You win the award you've been waiting pretty much your whole career to win, and then say, well, you can't come here for 10 years. I'd probably be like, deuces, I've been waiting the whole time for this award. I don't want to come back anyway. I mean, yeah, that whole thing struck me as odd. I think it was like almost like an old wrestling play. I couldn't tell if it was a work or if it was a shoot, but yeah, it was definitely crazy. And like you said, to your point, anywhere else, somebody's getting arrested at that point. I mean, that is assault, plain and simple. If I walk up to somebody that says something to me in public and I slap them and the security's around, which I'm sure it was, then my ass is going to jail. So, strange times we're living in, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate the time and great talking to you about movies.
Yes, sir. I'm a big movie fan. I'm a big fan of yours. Anything you got coming up on the horizon that our listeners can look out for, and tell us where they can track you down on your social medias.
Sure. Keith Coogan online.com. And Keith Coogan on all the Instagram and the Twitters and stuff. And look for me in Wrong Reasons. That's making the circuit right now in theaters. Produced by Kevin Smith. Directed Josh Roush. Starring and produced by Liv Routh. And I'm a really obnoxious investigative journalist. Total douche. And you can I'll be at conventions, tons of conventions this year. Look for me online and the posting of the thing and the sharing of the conventions. Sorry, it's late. It's been a long day.
Absolutely. Yeah, check them out on social media, folks. I'm sure it'll be hopping to a convention near you soon. So go in there, get a little meet on, a little autograph, a little meet and greet opportunity. I'm sure you'll travel with your lovely wife, Pinky. You tell her Hollywood Wade says hello.
Absolutely. You got it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was Keith Coogan, and unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Keith, we appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, man. Rock and roll.